while today it boasts a laid-back beach town on a river atmosphere. To local and tourist alike, the history of this sleepy town takes a dark turn. Hi, my name is Rebekah. Over the years, I've lived and worked as a spiritualist and ghost tour guide in some of the most haunted cities in the United States. Now, I invite you to come along with me as I set out to discover even more. Together, we will venture across the country in search of the most horrific haunts and spooky stories. I'm Rebekah, the Ghost Guide. It has become a standard to begin the story of colonial towns with the colonialists themselves. However, the story of New Bern begins with the end of a village called Chautauqua. Within Chautauqua resided those of the Tuscarora tribe of indigenous Native Americans. The English colonialists, having encroached upon Tuscarora land, had numerous skirmishes up and down the coast prior to New Bern even being incorporated in 1710. 2 years later, all-out war broke out between the English and the Tuscarora. After years of bloody battles, the Tuscarora had been killed in staggeringly high numbers, which led to their retreat north. Such actions allowed New Bern to expand, but at what cost? On taken land, the town at Two Rivers would thrive right up until fire, sickness, flooding, war, and hurricanes would nearly wipe them out. Between all these tragedies, one thing is certain. Lives were lost, and since then, souls have wandered. Today, I will be going to Tryon Palace. It's the only palace I've ever heard of in North Carolina, so let's go check it out. We're getting closer, check this out. Important thing, mask up first. Wow, you just don't see things like this in the United States. Welcome to Tryon Palace, right here in New Bern, North Carolina. Between the years of 1770 and 1775, this served as the British governor's residence and administrative headquarters. Before Raleigh was the capital of North Carolina, the capital city was right here. Why build on such a grand structure only to move the capital so soon after completion? Well, there was a war. A rather revolutionary war, to be exact. And this palace was quickly captured by Patriot rebel troops in 1775. Not long after, the building burned. That's right, this building, now visited by thousands each year, is a replica built in the 1950s. So what happened? After serving as headquarters for a re-established capital of the United States of America, the state of North Carolina, the capital city, did eventually move to the new city of Raleigh in 1792. From there, this palace was used for various public resources until an untamed cellar fire ripped through and destroyed all of the main building. Here we have political drama, an overthrow of government by colonial rebels, numerous people living and working here, a fire, and a rebuilding. There must be some good ghost stories here, right? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. Those of you more interested in paranormal investigation may remember this clip from a few years ago. Was the image of a servant woman authentic, or was this too good to be true? Since it was first posted, people have become very opinionated. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. What was my personal take on Tryon Palace? It is a beautiful representation of historical palaces. The staff really has gone all out in order to ensure a positive and safe experience for guests. It was truly a unique experience to have in-costume tour guides in each individual room. However, as far as spiritual accounts are concerned, I found this to be a building to be rather sleepy. Perhaps it's due to the time of year, the pandemic resulting in fewer guests, or perhaps the spirits have simply moved on over time. Regardless, if you find yourself on this side of North Carolina, I highly recommend checking out this beautifully, historically based home. Just across the street from the Tryon Palace is the Stanley House. As a further link between these two grand buildings, they may have shared an architect, even as the Stanley House wasn't built until the 1780s. Nowadays, this home is recognized for its Georgian architecture. Such eloquence and fine building was meant to be a long-lasting physical reminder of its original resident, Revolutionary War hero and businessman, John Wright Stanley. However, despite his power and standing in life, both he and his wife would meet their mortality at the hands of yellow fever in 1798. I first heard about this home when I took the Ghost of New Bern tour, a sister tour to the company I worked for in Wilmington before I set off to be on the road full-time. So, as to not give the stories away, I'll have to keep those particular tales short. While our guide enlightened us on tales of ghost children and various rooms upstairs, I couldn't help but get the feeling that someone older, a man in particular, was peering down at us from the second floor. After only a brief web search later, I picked up on a story that helped me piece together what I was initially feeling. His name was John Carther Stanley, and while he shared a last name with his father, he did not share the same basic human freedoms. John Carther Stanley was born into slavery on his mother's side. However, despite this, by the time he was 21, he would not only buy his freedom, but also the freedom of his wife, as well as ensuring the emancipation of his children. However, despite him later becoming one of the more wealthier people in town, a prominent landowner, a successful businessman, and purchasing the freedom of a number of once enslaved people, both family and friend alike, he at a time was also one of the largest slave owners in the county. So why would John Carther Stanley haunt his birth father's home? The ghost story says that what he was denied in life, a birthright and the freedom to be recognized as such, Stanley has come back to claim in death. I think it's also important to note that this house was moved to this location from its original foundations. Perhaps it was this move that allowed Stanley to move in. Just as he experienced a different place in life, whether spiritual or legal, somehow, maybe, that allowed him to open up to a new world of opportunities in death. This place has seen a lot of drama and not in that much time. And do you know what drama says to me? Ghost stories! So if COVID weren't a thing, we'd be able to go inside. But we can check out the garden, so let's go check it out. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I just walked into this property and I don't really feel great. What was I feeling when I went out on the property of the Stanley House? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. The fact is that I do not know what happened on this land prior to the house being moved there as a result of its historic preservation. However, I can't shake off the feeling that what I felt, the queasiness, the uncertainty, and the feeling that eyes were following my movements cannot be ignored. Something is going on at the Stanley House, as far as I'm concerned. There are too many stories to count. And so, when it safely reopens, I would highly recommend checking it out. And of course, if you have any stories of your own to add, please be sure to comment down below. Welcome to the New Bern Academy. This schoolhouse behind me may be one of the oldest schoolhouses, if not just in North Carolina, in the entire United States. However, if you think that this place is haunted by children, maybe not so much. The New Bern Academy has roots that date back to 1764. And in 1767, a visitor remarked that it was one of the best regulated schools, unquote, in the United States. All of this changed when local legislature changed its status from a public and tax-paid school with Anglican ties to a privately paid for and religiously unaffiliated institution. The school was further damaged in a fire that destroyed the building in 1795. Despite this, the school was eventually rebuilt and used as an education institution all the way up until 1971. However, the spiritual encounters people experience here have less to do with the school and everything to do with this building becoming a makeshift Civil War hospital. At the point this building was used as a hospital, the Civil War had only just begun in the South. Proud young men headed far away from home to fight. Recognizing the strategic importance of New Bern, the Union aimed to win back the city as soon as possible, and the result would land many young, proud Southern boys right here. This was where a makeshift hospital was set up to treat men from the nearby battlefront. Supplies were few, and doctors were even fewer. With time being scarce, surgeons often had to make the difficult decision to amputate shattered limbs when bullets and shrapnel created wounds beyond quick repair. The process was excruciating and involved various saws, tools to pick out debris, ways to shave down exposed bones, and thick needles to sew everything up. Oftentimes, the victim could feel everything, unless they were lucky enough to pass out from the pain. As for the limbs, it was said you can still find them all over town. What else would the local dogs have to chew on when limbs just so casually would fall out of these windows? Have you ever gone to a place and without knowing the history or anything about it, you just immediately feel like something bad has happened there? This is what I felt before even stepping foot on the property of the Academy Museum. I couldn't quite explain why the feeling was that way, but it was almost as if I could hear the groaning of men and the cries of women. To hear the ghost tales that confirmed my feelings, it did not offer any resolve. However, it made me wonder if the rebellion had been worth it. I feel as if it is easy to be heated and even to be scared in the present. However, when such emotions would eventually lead to so many people experiencing horrific deaths, I couldn't help but wonder if the thoughts, the feelings, and the realities of that time would have been worth it if people could have realized that they would wind up like this. What is worse is the concept that some of these poor souls continue to relive the trauma of their death over and over to this day. This museum is traditionally open a few times a week. However, because of the pandemic, it was closed when I arrived. That being said, closed or open, this place continues to not only teach of the past, but also to relive it. This is one of the most notorious burial grounds in North Carolina. Welcome to Cedar Grove Cemetery. I'm kind of nervous right now. So let's go inside together, shall we? Established in 1800, Cedar Grove Cemetery has become a top site to visit for burial ground enthusiasts. Many Congress representatives, veterans, and New Bern celebrities such as Caleb Bradham, the inventor of Pepsi, can be found here. Another name you may recognize, if nothing else from this video, is John Stanley. While this was originally consecrated ground under the Christ Episcopal Church, the burial ground was transferred to the city of New Bern in 1853 for common use. Perhaps that is why the spiritual feeling here is mixed. Or maybe that has to do with this arch. People have come from all over just to step under this entrance into the cemetery. Why? It is said that those who feel a drop of water when going underneath this arch had better put their finalities in order because their days are numbered. Let's see. Okay, no drops. We're good. Where does this urban legend come from? It is unknown. And sure, we can say that this kind of construction in coastal concrete leads itself to holding water, but whether scientifically explained or not, I don't know of anyone wishing for water to drop on them on their way inside. I'm gonna be honest with you, I did not spend much time in the Cedar Grove Cemetery. While I did make a means to pay for my visit there by offering overarching spirits coins, I felt as if there were combatant overarching spirits depending on which area of the cemetery I ventured to. Every time I would walk by this location or even drive by this location, it would make me sick. While I have enjoyed walking around many burial sites in the past, this was one in particular that I did not enjoy. In doing some research, it did not take long to find out that some of the spirits here are far from at rest. Earlier in the 20th century, some graves were dug up and moved. This was done not out of kindness or courtesy, It was done because of the color of the skin of the persons buried. Due to segregation running rampant in the South, these people of color were seen as lesser and therefore removed so that plots could be made available for white people. When I find that out, suddenly, what I was feeling made a lot of sense. There are spirits who are not able to find rest in the cemetery. There are spirits who were not offered resolve and have reason to want to create an off-putting atmosphere here in order to bring attention to the fact that their peace was interrupted. While the feeling was unsettling at the time, I am grateful for the awareness that I was granted. It made me want to research the history, not only of the cemetery, but of New Bern itself. History, like ghosts, can be uncomfortable. But unless we recognize the reason why that is, we cannot hope to truly make changes for the better. Every time I've been to New Bern, the feelings in the air have been drastically different from the last. Not quite what I'd expected from a sleepy retirement and tourist town. It seems that the spirits of New Bern have accepted the reality of change. Just as the waters of the Trent and Neuse rivers continuously flow around the city, so do the sands of time move with them. Countless stories lie beneath the streets of this historic town, and I feel I've hardly unwrapped any of them. I encourage you that if you have your own stories to share, to comment down below. Or, if you would like to visit yourself, either in person or online, one of my Patreon tiers includes a map of all the places I have visited so far, including a sneak peek of some upcoming locations as well. You'll want to check this out. Till next time, I'm Rebekah, the Ghost Guide. Thanks for watching.